Thank you so much for joining me for another awesome episodes of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified bioenergetic practitioner. And today's episode is brought to you today by Nikki, Unleash the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, and highly effective approach to optimize wellness. It's a wearable device that puts better based frequency life in your hands and on your wrist. And you're going to want to make sure to stick to the very end because, as usual, we have a very awesome giveaway you're not going to want to miss out on, but you're not going to want to miss out on one word that this next guest has to say. I've interviewed her before. I absolutely adore the work she's putting out in the world. And I know you're going to fall in love with her as well. So let's welcome Keesha to the show.
Thanks for having me again. It's always wonderful to be on the beat.
That's fantastic. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, my dear. Like, how did you get started in this world? I know a lot of folks have kind of a pain to purpose type of story. So, where did you start on this alternative path?
Well, absolutely no difference from anyone else. There's pain to purpose. It's about how we arrive where we arrive, right? And for me, I was a nurse in the ICU in my early 20s, all the way through until my early 30s, and just adrenaline junkie extraordinaire. Skydiver, marathoner, met my husband, popped out 4 kids, tried to be perfect at all of it, right? Perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect nurse, perfect blah, blah, blah. And was also a people pleaser that I always say to the nth level of anyone I've ever met. So when I was in my early 30s, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And it was sort of this overnight thing. That's how my patients always say it too. Like all of a sudden I'm sick, which is patently untrue. It's just that we're so disassociated from our bodies that all of a sudden it finally gets our attention. That's what happened for me. One morning I woke up with 10 extra pounds of puffiness and redness all over my joints. And it was like someone had taken the batteries out of the Energizer bunny. And I got in to be evaluated, and the doctor that was seeing me asked, well, do you have a family history of autoimmune disease? And I said, yeah, I think my grandfather had RA when he died. And he died at 58 and I'm 59 now.
Whoa.
He was in a wheelchair with RA. And she said, well, that's what you have. And she gave me these 2 prescriptions, ripped them off her pad in quick succession. One was for methotrexate, which this was when I was 31 and I'm 59. So we're not actually doing anything differently than she did back then, right? Methotrexate, and also a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug that was really strong. And she said, when you get worse, come back.
Oh, lovely.
Not if. It was when you get worse, we'll change your meds. And so I said, well, hang on, time out. She's on the doorknob and I'm like, wait, come back. Is there anything else I can do? And I'm really disciplined. I make my own food. And she said, I'm afraid not. This is genetic. And, it's kind of like close the book, stick it on the shelf. And so I said, on my way home, clearly my model of medicine, which is the only one that I'd ever considered. I didn't even know there were other ways of thinking out there. That's how conservative I was. And I was kind of born and raised in the Western model and had 2 parents that were nurses. And it's just all it's like the water I was in, right? So I remember on my way home wondering, I wonder if there's another way of thinking about this. And when I got home, I went on my dial-up modem.
I can hear it screeching at
you
me.
never had one of those, have you, Heather? And there was a search engine back then called Ask Jeeves. And I asked Jeeves about, how to get to PubMed and look at the research about RA. And what I discovered was really interesting because, there was not a lot. But I found this one compelling article on yoga and autoimmunity. And the next morning I was in my yoga class for the very first time, had never been to yoga. And in fact, I called my running partner the night before and I said, I'm not going to go running tomorrow morning. I'm going to a yoga class. Wow, really? And I said, yeah, I've never hung out with people that chant. I'm a little I mean, that is how bad it was. And so
I just can't picture you drinking the Kool-Aid like that much. But yeah, that's incredible.
So in the Kool-Aid. So, as yoga teachers do, we're holding our asanas for long periods of time. The yoga teacher, he's wandering through the studio and he's talking, and he talked enough about this medical sister science of yoga called Ayurveda that comes out of the same group of texts called the Vedas, 10,000-year-old model of medicine. He piqued my interest enough that I went back to my dial-up modem after class and looked at anything I could find about Ayurvedic medicine. And Ayurveda 10,000 years ago said we're not all the same. And so this idea that we can have evidence-based medicine is seeking standardized people, right? That there's one way that everybody will respond. And, I thought, wow, they knew all this time ago that that doesn't work. And it was really new for me, quite revolutionary to think about the fact that we're all different. And that this cookbook thing, all of the triaging that I had done in the ER and the ICU was based on, if you see this, do this, if you see this, do this. And that the person that we're working on is somehow going to be like the one that came before and the one that came before, which I started realizing as I was reading about Ayurveda, like, oh yeah, this is why bad things happen, is from that assumption. So it was really eye-opening. And then I read, oh, by the way, autoimmune disease is undigested anger. And I was like, what? I'm an angry person. And, the idea that you could digest feelings and experiences and memories was very foreign. Just like all this new information, this new way of thinking about things. And so I started practicing that and learned how to meditate. And one day I was meditating and this word autoimmune was dancing around. And I thought, gosh, as I was looking at it, auto means I'm doing this to myself. I'm committing suicide in a societally acceptable manner. Is there a time in my life when I wanted off this planet? And, at the time that I was experiencing this disease process, that wasn't true. But as I started going backwards in my memory trail, I found the 10-year-old little girl version of myself who was being sexually abused by the vice principal of our elementary school. And I remember thinking, oh, well, you spent a lot of times talking to angels. Like I would come home from school and I'd go out on the balcony under the palm tree and I would spend a lot of time like in other realms. It made me highly intuitive, very, very, very spiritual. And at the same time, I was completely dissociative. And so I did not have a good connection to my body. I had one foot in and one foot out of life at all times. And I got it like, oh, you really learned how to kind of stay halfway here. And so I thought, I wonder if this autoimmune disease has something to do with that time period. And I really got it. I knew it. I knew somehow, and we didn't have the science to back that up back then, but I knew it. It was true that it had upregulated my genetics. Again, we didn't have those words, but I somehow knew that this had done something in my genes. And so I went into some pretty deep trauma therapy, and my RA reversed within 6 months. And I never had to take the meds, and it's never been back. And I always tell people I didn't cure myself. Like I didn't cure it, right? That's actually not a thing. It's in my genes. So if I were to go back to the way that I used to perceive, drive myself as a perfectionistic people pleaser, I was a
I
sugar
tell people
addict.
I'm a type A, I'm a recovering type A.
Yeah, exactly. If I were to go and start, perceiving my world and myself in the same way and driving myself in the same way and eating the same way, I would have RA back within 6 months again. I am positive. So, the fact that autoimmunity's never reared its head again in all these years is because I'm doing this work of digesting things as they come along, taking the nourishment from them and getting rid of the rest. So that's the key, right?
Absolutely. That was the one thing that I absolutely love that came out of that Pfizer study, with the ACE, scores, the adverse childhood experiences, and the more the higher the ACE scores, they're showing a correlation, right, to getting autoimmune and other chronic illnesses, being more susceptible as you get older. You know, and
Mhm.
it's the same way. I was always had one foot in and one foot out. I had so many suicide attempts when I was younger, and then ended up with 3 autoimmune diseases when I got older. You know,
Mhm.
the functional person in me, like I could take my supplements, I could be in bed on time, I could do my sauna, no
Mhm.
problem. But you wanted me to
Mhm.
talk about my emotions and how I feel,
Mhm.
vomit. Like, no, thank you. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I started diving into emotions is when the magic, the real magic, really started to happen. So that's why I absolutely love this topic. This is a great place. We're going to stop real quick. We're going to pause for a commercial. When we come back, we're going to dive deeper into the emotional, bioenergetic, physical connection. Um, yeah, so you're not going to want to miss anything from the next step. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name's Stephen Davis, founder and developer of Nikki, a personal frequency delivery system. This wearable is designed to deliver frequencies into the body to speed recovery from Lyme disease. Our Lyme suite of frequencies are the newest version of our Lyme recovery program. Thousands of Lyme sufferers, which include my family, use the Lyme daily to overcome Lyme disease. Today, I'm proud to announce a new suite of Lyme frequency sets that are going to be focused on co-infections. Nikki is loaded with Lyme Daily, which deals with the Lyme disease, plus 9 additional frequency sets designed to address your worst co-infection symptoms. Those frequency sets include bacteria and virus, detox, emotional balance, gut health, histamine, mold and fungal, Lyme sleep, pain and stress. And we know that those are going to be well received from people with Lyme disease. We are passionate about speeding your recovery from Lyme disease. It's a terrible disease that no one should have to live with. Once you have used your Lyme Daily, then choose from the 9 frequency sets designed to offer relief from your most persistent symptoms. The key is to stick with it. Don't frequency hop until you've used the Lyme Daily. Best practice is use the other frequency sets for a minimum of 2 hours before switching to another. This is giving the frequency sets time to bring your body into balance. Good balance means good health.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Continuing on, like, have you not already fallen in love with her? Like, she's just so direct and like, boom, to the point, and, had a beautiful story to share. Thank you for being so vulnerable with us and telling us about some of the stuff that happened to you. That sometimes that can be hard for people to talk about. But I think that's what people need to hear, because they need to be able to start tying these puzzle pieces together themselves and seeing their story and yours in order for them to get the help that they need. So thank you for being vulnerable.
Oh, the thing of it is what we do with our story is the important part of it, right? And I think when we can all agree that we're born in innocence, and in order to get to wisdom and elderhood, there are no wise 20-year-olds, right? You have to you have to do the work, right, to get through to wisdom. Then the thing that you go through to get that wisdom is heartbreak, betrayal, and trauma. So when I talk about trauma and emotional hurt, right, adverse childhood experiences, I'm not necessarily just talking about or to the people that have capital T trauma, like my story includes, and your story. I'm also talking about the normal part of life that includes heartbreak, betrayal, and trauma as a referencing or a contextualization that you were not robbed of a perfect life with the heartache that you've gone through, with the traumatic events. So if we define the word trauma or emotional, right, hurt, what we're really saying is that any part of your life developmentally, wherever you are, whether you're a child or an adult, traumatic events are ones that you don't have the skill set yet to navigate. That's it. It's traumatic. You don't have the skill set yet to navigate it. And so this is part of the hero's journey. It's the requirement to go get mentorship, to then practice new skills, to master them, come back and teach them. This is the journey, and it is life. And I know people get really angry when they say, like, that person didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve this. We have to take the word deserve off the table. You are absolutely correct. Nobody deserves to be hurt. And at the same time, how many people have been hurt at your hands? where none of us, right, are innocent of hurting other people inadvertently and advertently. And so this is part of life and learning to be more skillful. So I always say, from innocence, we go through heartbreak, betrayal, and trauma. That develops our false sense or our ego identity. You could say your Enneagram type, right? That's the one I like to use to track what's the voice of your ego. When people don't follow the script you've written for them, you get resentful and bitter. If you stay in that bottom part of the life cycle and you stay with, I've been hurt, I've been betrayed, my heart is broken, and I'm resentful and bitter about it. And my ego is got a whole bunch of parts now that are going to be protectors and managers and, like a whole array of a family in there that you've developed for yourself to protect your innocent psyche. If you stay stuck there, you don't grow developmentally. When you get to the point in life where you say, gosh, every time I'm upset, every time I'm angry, every time I'm hurt, I'm there. I'm the only common denominator in the whole thing. Maybe the way that I'm perceiving myself as an adult in the world now is being governed by the operating system of a very wise child who very, very wisely figured out ways to cope and survive in their world, but now has transferred the operating set to you, their belief systems, their meanings, their maladaptive behavior strategies that used to be adaptive, but have now been outgrown. Anything that involves a street drug, an addiction of any kind, alcohol, sugar, food, right? Porn, like shopping, gambling, love addiction, right? Sex addiction, all of it.
People pleasing,
people pleasing, anything with the word addiction behind it, you have to have something outside of you to feel better. It's your binky, then it's an addiction. And that comes from a child place. So when you wake up to that and go, oh, I recognize even my disease process can be an addiction because the attention I get for it from outside helps me to regulate myself, helps me to be able to disengage with the world if I'm too much of a caretaker. I can turn off the lights and put a washcloth over my forehead and say I have a migraine. And my headache takes me out when I'm not setting good boundaries verbally with my life, right? So there are all kinds of ways this happens. It's not bad. It just is. And so at some point, many people will start to have this dawn on them. I know definitely I did. And said, okay, so if I'm present in all of this, then okay, maybe it's time for me to, and this is with, willingness to self-confront your own mind with compassionate curiosity is key here. Walk into your own mind stream, turn around, look around, and go, oh, okay, this is what I'm looking for in life, so therefore I find it, right? And once that starts to get digested properly, then you're actually being nourished and nurtured by yourself. Then you heal and you get liberated from a lot of these earlier, more contracted ways of viewing. You start expanding, and you start expanding to a point that you start recognizing that you're much more than your ego, and you start attaining compassion and wisdom. So less and less time spent with the false self.
That's fantastic. So I love, because like I said, I wasn't even, a lot of times you're in denial, right? You don't even know what you don't know. And for the longest time, like I said, I didn't even realize
it's not even denial. You just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Right. You're not denying it. You just are like, this is the water that I'm in. You're a jellyfish and you don't know you're in water. Right.
Absolutely. I know when you talked about anger, like anger was the only thing that was allowed in my household. So I was a very angry person. I even used anger instead of sadness. It's usually a cover for me for sadness. If I'm feeling angry, it's because I'm guarding sadness. Because
everybody, by the way.
Yeah.
Anger is the crust you can walk on.
Yep.
Sadness is like this tar that you get stuck in. It's so much easier to feel anger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
110%. But so some of the easy ways in to emotions, that's why Nikki has that on their frequency, is because sometimes you need a little something to kind of help get you in. So what are some of the tools that you like to use to get people understanding their emotions and working through them a little better?
Just really starting to be aware, developing what's called awake awareness to your own mind. So if you are triggered by something, okay, so all of a sudden you're angry, all of a sudden you're sad, all of a sudden you feel dismissed or disrespected or whatever it is, right? Undervalued, then get curious. Instead of looking to what someone else is doing to you, start turning toward your own mind and asking what the need is right now that is not being met, and start meeting it for yourself. So the thing, I run retreats every single month. And one of the things I always teach retreat participants is that we always want everyone to like us, but we don't really feel like we have to like everyone.
Oh,
The
right?
math on that doesn't really work, right? We want to be wanted, but we don't want to want. And so it's really fascinating. It's so arrogant, and it's a form of narcissism. Like, you have to like me, but I don't have to like you. And so when you start noticing some of those discrepancies, right, which are flat out hypocrisy and narcissistic traits, and being willing to like really, really note it in yourself without judgment and without shame. It's like, oh my gosh, that's cute. Look at that. Like, oh, you're so cute. Okay. I see you in there, right? You're afraid of not being liked. And yet you have all these people you don't like. All right. So why are you depriving other people around you of freedom of choice?
Right.
Why are you oppressing them? Why are you manipulating them? Right? Why can't you just show up and people get the choice, they're autonomous beings, to have an opinion of you that is whatever they want to have. It doesn't take anything from you. So you start working with that internal dialogue. And then you go to the little child part of you who's frightened to death of being rejected from the tribe. Your middle schooler, right? It's like, I'll do anything to fit in. What do I need to be? What do I need to wear? Who do I need to talk to? And it's like, you can find that one in you. And then you just give her, or they, them, or him, a great big hug and just say, okay, I've got you. I see you. I will always like you, love you, respect you. Right? I've got you. And you don't have to lead the way in life anymore. I'm here. I've got it. Right? It's so liberating.
I love that you're not talking about avoiding your triggers, because I think that's one thing that's
No.
kind of driving me crazy right now. You need to put a trigger warning on blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'll be damned if I do. Like,
Right.
you can't keep making your life smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
It was the best thing I heard from a preacher when I was younger was, you do not grow up on easy street. It's the same thing with these kind of the younger generation trying to avoid being triggered and triggering others. And it's just like, no, it doesn't work that way.
No, if you have a lot of compassion, then you can have, you're going to have a lot of curiosity. If you have compassion, you have curiosity. And so if you're curious about other people's experience of life, and you have the understanding that everyone is supposed to be different from you, they're not supposed to agree with you. Right? Birds of a feather flock together. Well, okay, yeah, but do we only want ravens in the world? Do we only want pigeons? Do we only want eagles? No, right? We want a diversity of a microbiome. We want diverse humans. We want diversity in all beings on the planet, or it's not healthy. And so it's really important to recognize, like, oh, if someone doesn't think like I do, I think they're wrong. Wow. I am really on the narcissistic bus right now. Who's driving it?
How do I get off?
No, like, which age of you is driving it, right? Yeah, I'm so arrogant right now. Wow. And just note it. Be willing to say, gosh, I think if people don't believe, like presidential election coming along, listen to what people say to each other. Like flat out saying that someone's wrong because they don't agree with you. Wow. Right. And that's fascinating to me. And so this idea that somehow we're supposed to homogenize, like in functional medicine, we don't like homogenization. So, we're supposed to be diverse. So recognizing that helps with the triggers, right? Recognizing that, oh, somewhere along the way, it was unsafe for me to be different. I'm a Navy brat. Like chameleon was one of my coping strategies. What do you want me to be? Who do you want me to be? How should I dress? I need to fit in, right? Now, like my 30-year-old self that got diagnosed with RA would never recognize the 59-year-old version. She'd be like, oh my God, because I run psychedelic medicine circles for healing trauma. And that one would have never, ever considered it. So, this is the part about going from contracted to expanded, where you can start to hold complexities in life. You can start to hold that things are not always going to be the same, and nor should they be.
Absolutely. So we're getting to the part of the show, the shameless plug time. So what are you putting out there right now? And where can people find you if they want to learn more, go to your retreats? I saw that you have a beautiful cookbook. I was staring at your face all weekend long because Mary had your cookbook up on her kitchen countertop.
Well, drkeesha.com, and I have, retreats there, do-it-yourself programs, and I work with people one-to-one. And, from a lot of the book that I would start with is Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle. And it talks about the freedom framework that I use to help people reverse chronic illness. And I talk about, if we're solving a puzzle, everyone is a unique puzzle. Then you take all the puzzle pieces, you dump them on the table, you turn them all over, and you're looking for the 4 corner pieces to get them anchored in. For each person, we have our own unique genetics. That's one puzzle corner. And then another corner piece is going to be your microbiome, your adrenals, your hormone health. Third one will be your toxic load and your body's willingness and ability to get rid of those toxins. And then the fourth is trauma. And trauma impacts how your genetics express. Trauma impacts your toxic burden, whether or not you can detox. If you're a zebra being chased by a lion and you're about to get eaten, right? Your body knows as a zebra and as a human who's under stress that it's not safe, to reproduce. So all of your hormones that are responsible for reproduction, feeling good, having a libido, having your memory work properly, will get hijacked in favor of the hormones responsible for getting you to safety. And B, your digestive system knows it's not safe to poop if you've got a lion on your tail. And so everything that's involved with digestion is going to contract and shut down. So we want to really know, like, trauma and how you're dealing with it, if you're digesting it properly, impacts detoxification and how you hold on to toxins. And then the other thing that trauma impacts, of course, is going to be not just your genetics and your toxic burden, but your microbiome, right? Your adrenals, your hormones. So all of this is interrelated. And then we solve the puzzle in the unique way that is you, as we fill it in. And so that's kind of the overview of how I work with people.
It's absolutely incredible. Also, make sure to visit wearenikki.com/podcast and enter in BioBeats for 10% off your Nikki. But because we love our customers so much and to show appreciation, we give away a Nikki with a wellness set of frequencies on every show. I think it's a $5.97 value. So make sure to go to the show notes to find out how to work with Dr. Keesha, and then to how to enter in to win your free, enter in your free Nikki. So don't forget, make sure to share, like, and subscribe, and good luck. Have a healthy day. Thanks for joining us.
There's a new word for wellness, Nikki. Nikki, the bioenergetic wearable designed to help you feel better and perform better. Other wearables just track how you're doing. Nikki is about helping you do better. Touch the Nikki screen to choose the frequency you want for what you want to do and how you want to feel. Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. WeAreNikki.com.
Hey, I'm Steve. I'm an engineer, a biohacker, and a dad, and I love my Nikki. I use 3 different programs on this one mostly. In the mornings, I run Energy Boost, which honestly is about the equivalent of a cup of coffee. I still have my coffee, but this does make a difference. After work, I run my stress and anxiety program, and that takes me from being like, task mode from work to really kind of chilled out dad mode, which is nice. And occasionally when I need it, I run the pain program as well. I actually tore my ACL last September, middle of September, and I was running again by middle of October. No surgery, no therapy, just the pain program once a day. So I've worked with red light therapy for several years now, and like I said, this is just about my favorite because it is so easy to use. I just put it on my wrist in the morning, run it all day. Don't even notice it's there except for how I feel. So I love it.
Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. WeAreNikki.com. The views, information, and opinions expressed in this content are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of FreeMedica. FreeMedica Technologies, Inc. and its employees are not responsible, nor verifies accuracy any of the information contained in the following content. The primary purpose of this content is to educate and inform. This content does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.